Most epic deaths in history. How can a death be epic? The only epic death that comes to mind is when Thor sliced off Thanos' neck meat. But again, that was fiction. Wait, fiction means fake, right? And non-fiction means not fake, right? This is an actual history. What is he talking about? Let's find out. Let's find out.
Today, we're going over the most epic deaths in human history. Number one, Benkei. It's a dark night in 12th century Japan, and a Buddhist monk named Benkei is wandering the streets of Kyoto. With an abundance of temples dotting the city, monks are a common sight, but this guy is different. At 6'6", he towers over everyone around him, and he's carrying a weapon. A cross between a sword and a long spear called a naginata. His face gives off the vibes of someone on a hunt more than someone seeking enlightenment. And it turns out he was out hunting that night for his final victim. See, Benkei was actually a Sohei, a warrior monk trained and battle-hardened in combat. Through his encounters with samurai, he's decided that they were an arrogant class, unworthy of their status in society. The world would be a better place with less of them around, and this led him on a bloody quest to duel and defeat 1,000 samurai, collecting their blades as trophies.
He was about it.
At this point, he had collected 999 swords and was out that night looking for his final duel. While walking near Goto Tenjin Shrine, Benkei hears the sound of a flute, and when looking to see who is playing it, he finds a small, thin samurai. Around the man's waist is a beautiful gilded katana. It's the Huz? To finalize Benkei's sword collection. He immediately challenges this samurai to a duel. The small man puts away his flute and surprisingly he agrees to fight. The two men walk together to Gojo Bridge and draw their weapons.
Bro, he is 6'6". This nigga is 4'11". You're getting bodied.
Full of confidence, Benkei rushes in, but despite towering over the samurai, Benkei is swiftly defeated. Instead of taking his life, the samurai just turns and walks away. Benkei is...
And then he doesn't even have because I know in like samurai culture, that's even more disrespectful. At that point, you have to kill him. You don't just body him and then walk away. Finish the job. You gotta finish the job.
Benkei is shocked and left in disbelief. In the following days, these unfamiliar feelings turn to anger and frustration. How could he lose to this tiny samurai?
Tiny boy.
Much larger men in the past. He decides to stalk the grounds of Kiyomizudera Temple, waiting for the samurai to appear so he could take his revenge.
That's like getting jumped by a bunch of dwarves, bro. Nah, bro. Just never step out the house after that.
Eventually, the samurai does show up, and Benkei immediately challenges him to another duel.
And he gets bodied.
Benkei loses again. Humiliated, he bows in defeat and tells this samurai that he'll abandon his life as a monk and instead follow him as one of his retainers. The samurai, who turns out to be Minamoto no Yoshitsune of the legendary Minamoto clan, agrees. Benkei joins him on his adventures, and the two become inseparable. They go on to join Yoshitsune's half-brothers and fight in the Genpei War against the powerful Taira, a clan
I know for a fact they won.
Father when he was just a baby. After 5 years of fighting, the Minamoto clan emerges victorious, and one of Yoshitsune's half-brothers, Yoritomo, becomes shogun. The end of the Genpei War had an unintended consequence. Without a common enemy, jealousy and suspicion soon turned the brothers against each other, and Yoshitsune and Benkei find themselves on the run, being pursued by Yoritomo and his men. They eventually find protection under another clan called the Fujiwara, and the pair spend a few years in relative peace in their domain.
All these names sound like food to me. Maybe that's just the big back in me. But golly, the Fujiwara and the Shimicolons with the Shimishamis? I don't know what they're talking about.
Did not last, as with a lot of pressure and probably a lot of bribes, Yoritomo finally convinces the Fujiwara to turn on his brother.
Can we stream together?
No Hidehira,
bro, I don't even know you.
Protector betrays them.
Who is this nigga?
1189, at the Battle of Koromogawa, Yoshitsune and Benkei find themselves trapped and outnumbered 5-1, with 500 of Fujiwara's men surrounding their castle position. The forces clash, and Yoshitsune's men put up a heroic
stab, get him.
In particular is a demon on the battlefield, crushing enemies who are on average more than a foot shorter than him. But despite their best efforts, Yoshitsune's men quickly begin to fall. With just a handful of retainers remaining, Yoshitsune realizes the battle is already lost. He turns to Benkei and tells him he plans to commit seppuku within the castle. He'll need time to prepare.
Seppuku? That's what you mean? Wait. No. We have time to win. Don't give up on me now. We've been in this war for what? How many years? 5, 6 years? You want to give up now? No. We supposed to be brothers for life. Come on.
and Benkei understands the assignment. He walks to the bridge that serves as the only entrance to the castle and stands alone against Fujiwara's army. Fujiwara signals a charge, and wave after wave of his men charge Benkei. He cuts them down one after another. No man can make it past him. In some stories, he's said to have single-handedly slain 300 soldiers on that bridge.
Oh
Benkei
my lord! What happened to his hat? He bald underneath. Bro, they took your hat off. Come on, bro, lock in, bro. I know I know you just bodied 300 bodies, right? But like, come on, bro. Imagine getting your do-rag snatched off, bro. I think you lost just because of that.
A pile of deceased Fujiwara warriors beckoning more men to cross. And despite orders to do so, none of the Fujiwara's men answer his call. They all know that stepping on the bridge was a death sentence. Fujiwara, realizing his men are now too afraid to attack Benkei head-on, calls in his archers. They'll take him out from a distance instead. The archers let loose a barrage of arrows that find their mark in Benkei's chest, but nothing happens. Benkei doesn't flinch.
He eats those.
Loose another volley of arrows, but still nothing changes. Benkei's body is now a pincushion of arrows, but is still standing defiantly in their way. Time passes, and
now that's aura right there. That's aura
across the bridge.
Even though he's leaking
to make the first move.
They all shivering.
Fujiwara orders some of his men onto the bridge, and they reluctantly do as they're told. As they slowly approach Benkei, he makes no motion to ready himself. They get closer, and when they finally reach the massive monk, they discover that while he was still standing, he was already dead.
What?
Benkei, knowing he needed to buy as much time for his master as possible, had positioned himself to be supported by his spear even if he was no longer alive. In his last...
Are you serious right now? How do you even do that? He knew he was going out, so he just stood there. He just stood there like these. Did he keep his eyes open? Just, bro, they just tapped him. He just... Holy.
Last stand, he showed no pain or emotion while being hit with countless arrows, all to give the illusion that he was ready to fight anyone who dared to cross. Because of his final
Let's be honest, guys. This is pretty epic.
Enough time to commit the seppuku ritual properly, maintaining his honor. What a wingman!
What type of honor is that? What you mean? He didn't wait. He did. So he didn't want to die in battlefield. So he just went in the back and took matters into his own hands. In GTA, of course, GTA 6, jiggle physics.
Yi Sun-shin.
Yi
Sun-shin. The 16th century in Korea was a strange mix of insane political corruption and relative peace for its people. Korea was a loyal trading state to China, and the Ming dynasty pretty much left them alone. To the east, the Japanese were busy killing each other in the Sengoku Jidai, so they weren't a problem either. Aside from those pesky Georgians who were constantly invading from the north, the rest of Korea was pretty boring and uneventful with no major threats. The boring, no-wars way of life led to many men choosing to pursue careers as scholars and government officials, as it was now the best way to gain power and influence. This led to a bloated and corrupt political class and an extremely weak military led by generals who had never seen real combat.
He going in? What is he doing?
This combination of governmental corruption and a weak military would end up causing all kinds of problems in 1590 when Hideyoshi Toyotomi fulfilled the dreams of his former lord Oda Nobunaga and reunified Japan, bringing an end to the Sengoku Jidai. The Japanese, for the first time in over 100 years, were not at war with each other. And if they weren't busy fighting each other, who are they going to fight now?
Themselves?
Oh. Hey, before you brutally invade Korea and stuff, can I ask you, how many spam emails or texts do you get a day?
Pre-ad.
Aka data dealers.
Pre-ad.
Toyotomi begins sending messengers to Korea, saying that he was planning to conquer China and that he expects the Koreans to help him or else. Now, remember, Korea was basically like the Puerto Rico of China in this era, so they couldn't really help Japan conquer it. Not like they wanted to, anyway. They thought the Japanese were primitive barbarians. Plus, those idiots don't even know how to sail anyway, right?
They learned how to sail, huh? Yeah.
In 1592, hundreds of Japanese ships are spotted off the coast of Busan. This is no trading expedition, this is an invasion. Seeing the massive Japanese fleet, two of Korea's top admirals freak out and sink their own ships so they won't have to fight the Japanese.
That's such a crazy way to go out. Wait, hold on. Because aren't you supposed to be on this boat to protect niggas? Isn't that your whole job? And as soon as some conflict happens, you just go and jump ship or sink the whole ship, take everyone down with you? Oh my gosh, bro. Oh my gosh. They got bad pickings for the military. Come on. You gotta do better there. We gotta do better. They obviously lied on their application, 100%.
The Japanese soldiers land in Busan unopposed and immediately begin conquering forts and cities on their march to Seoul. The Korean military is no match for Toyotomi's men, who are all veterans of a 100-year war. Korean casualties are huge. The Japanese are ruthless and leave few survivors. Within 3 weeks, they've marched to and conquered Seoul. A few weeks later, they take Pyongyang and are at China's doorstep. The fall of Korea seems inevitable. When all hope seemed lost, a man determined to defend his homeland and drive out these barbarian invaders rose to the occasion. A man who quite possibly was the greatest admiral to ever live. His name was Yi Sun-shin. Yi Sun-shin's story is pretty interesting because, unlike most heroes, he wasn't necessarily liked by the elites at the time. In fact, they kind of hated him, but for all the wrong reasons. Basically, early in his military career, he was so good at inspiring his men and leading them to victory that he made everyone around him look bad by comparison. Remember, corruption was a big problem during this time. So out of jealousy, a general falsely accuses Yi of deserting the army in battle, and the king believes it. He strips Yi of his rank, has him thrown in prison and tortured. This experience would probably make most men quit the military altogether. But Yi was eventually released.
They hold you.
He managed to climb his way back through the ranks to commanding a small fleet of ships by the start of the Japanese invasion.
Oh, he's way too dedicated. They hold you. They hold you because they were jealous of you because you were that good. You went to jail, came back even stronger. Wow. Wow.
Now, despite the fact the Koreans were absolute trash at fighting at the start of this war, they did have one huge advantage over the Japanese. They'd been dealing with Woko pirates along the coast for years, and because of this, they had developed ships called Panaksun, and later the turtle ship that were specifically designed to combat Japanese naval tactics. See, the Japanese weren't used to fighting at sea, so they basically stuck to what they were good at, close-range combat. Their strategy consisted of shooting at people with their rifles and boarding other ships, and engaging them with swords and spears.
Y'all got rifles.
Like transport vessels rather than
they got spears.
The Panaksun, on the other hand, was a floating fortress armed with cannons and was built in a way that made boardings impossible. These ships were a huge reason why Admiral Yi was able to have so much of his success and are basically the only advantage the Koreans have. And they already sank over half of them themselves.
Damn!
Anyways, Admiral Yi was not a coward like the other two admirals, and instead of sinking his ships, he rushed his fleet of 34 ships headfirst towards the Japanese and began attacking them along the coast. His capabilities as a naval commander are obvious right from the start. In just a few weeks, using tactics to bait the Japanese to sail into vulnerable positions, he single-handedly sinks over 200 Japanese ships with no losses of his own. In battle after battle, he is vastly outnumbered, yet sails away victorious every single time. Yi is the sparkling piece of glitter embedded in the turd that is the Korean military, and by the end of the year, he had sunk 350 Japanese ships. Yi's efforts, along with
he's a battleship player,
allowed the Koreans to drive the Japanese soldiers all the way back to Busan. And by the end of the year, the war entered somewhat of a stalemate, with the Chinese and Japanese trying to negotiate a peace deal. So things are going pretty good for Yi. But remember the two admirals who sunk their own ships at the beginning of the war? Well, one of them, named Won Gyeon, is insanely jealous of Yi's success. So jealous, he starts talking shit about Yi to the king every day. And when peace talks with China...
There's a reason why you're jealous. Because he's better than you. 120%. He gets in the battlefield, sinks over, how many ships he said? 300? You get in the battlefield, you see one ship come, you sink your ship. Come on, bro. That's... niggas been hating since 19 BC. People are still stupid.
China fail, and Toyotomi begins a second invasion of Korea in 1597. Gyun and other government officials frame Admiral Yi as a traitor, and the king agrees. For the second time
again, oh, don't piss me off.
And sent back to prison, where he is brutally tortured again.
Y'all don't want to win these wars. You're single-handedly. Oh my God! You're single-handedly taking your best opponent, throwing them in the trash twice in a row over false accusations, even though he's showing you accounts and accounts again, time and time again, that he is doing what he's supposed to do while everyone else is over here just crying in the corner, sinking their own ships. Bad work, bro. No. At this point, play for the other team. I want to be mad at it.
He's set to be executed.
You don't deserve this.
The king has a change of heart, and he instead sends Yi back to fight as a common soldier.
Oh,
a humiliation worse than death.
That's
With
sad.
Yi out of the picture, Won Gyeon is put in charge of the Korean fleet. And as you may have guessed by now, he was pretty terrible at his job. He drank heavily, made poor decisions, and disrespected his men. Many of Yi's commanders refused to fight under such a downgrade. And what made things even worse for Gyeon was that during the stalemate, the Japanese who had watched Admiral Yi wreck their over and over again had actually learned how to fight at sea. Their new ships now had cannons, and they began to use the same strategies Admiral Yi had used against them. This all comes to a head in the Battle of Chilcheoliang, Gyeon's first attempt to attack the Japanese fleet.
Chili Bang?
200 ships and the best of Admiral Yi's men, Gyeon sails out to confront the Japanese, and he immediately falls into a trap. A trap they had learned from fighting against Yi. The entire Korean Navy is decimated, and Gyeon is last seen being chopped to bits by Japanese soldiers while trying to run away. The king, realizing he may have messed up, reinstates Yi Sun-shin as fleet admiral, and he takes command of the pathetic remains of the once undefeated Korean Navy. He's left with just 13 ships and a few hundred demoralized men. In the following battle, outnumbered 25-1, using superior strategy, he manages to sink 31 of the 333 Japanese ships. Again, without
battleship master, I'm telling you.
This victory gives Yi time to rebuild his navy, but not gonna lie, things still look pretty grim for the Koreans. But the next year, Hideyoshi Toyotomi becomes ill and dies, his last official order being to withdraw the Japanese army from Korea back to Japan. Yi sees this as the time to finally drive the Japanese out of Korea for good and mounts a final offensive against the retreating Japanese forces. At the decisive Battle of Noryang, Yi takes his position at the top of his flagship with his son and nephew and begins beating a war drum to push his allied Korean and Chinese fleet forward. Admiral Yi's ship leads the charge, and he personally takes out 10 Japanese ships. The Japanese are in full retreat, and Yi beats his drum with intensity. Victory is within his grasp. After 7 long
Niggas sinking ships while playing Yi.
And Yi beats his drum with intensity. Victory is within his grasp. After 7 long years, Korea will finally be free of these invaders. But suddenly,
every time he hits that bell,
armpit by a Japanese musket ball. He realizes the wound is fatal, and he turns to his son and nephew and says, "The war is at its height. Wear my armor and beat my war drums. Do not announce."
Pause. I was about to beat is what? No, but like I'm really imagining getting a cannonball to your armpit. I'm pretty sure that his arm fell off after that one. Cannonball to the armpit, bro. You got a hole this big. Hell nah, bro. Disgust. Wrong one. I didn't mean to press that. Act like you didn't see that.
Announce my death. His son and nephew quickly
crazy good aim
below deck, and his nephew, dressed in Yi's armor, quickly returns to the admiral's position.
Start ringing that bell. Ring that bell.
Yi's men continue to fight, and the Koreans drive the Japanese out of Korea.
They did some hype music.
Undefeated in battle,
they was
below deck, listening to
oh
the
my
sound of his
gosh,
drums,
they was really about to lose, and they were like, "Nah, let's turn up real quick."
Ben L. Salomon. So we generally
Ben L. Salomon. All right, let's see what he talking about.
Cover stories from more ancient times on this channel, but this story from World War II undeniably belongs on this list. This is the last stand of a dentist turned field medic who took out 98 Japanese soldiers before falling to his own wounds.
No.
Ben L. Salomon was drafted into the United States Army in 1940, just 3 years after he graduated from the USC Dental School. Salomon proved to be a model soldier and showed himself to be very skilled with both rifle and pistol. He was quickly promoted, first to lieutenant and then to captain in 1944, serving as a regimental dental officer of the 105th Infantry Regiment.
If he a dentist, why his teeth look like that? He literally has 4 teeth in his mouth. You don't have to do him like that. Come on.
In June of 1944, Salomon and the 105th were deployed into active combat in Saipan. The fighting in the Pacific was infamously bloody. Casualties on the island were extremely high, and with so many soldiers having much more pressing issues than a root canal, Salomon volunteered to replace the 2nd Battalion's field surgeon who had been wounded. By July, both the Americans and the Japanese had suffered heavy casualties, and the remaining Japanese
best dentists have the worst teeth. Is that like a common? It's like a common fact.
They decided on a final banzai charge, a mission with the sole goal of killing as many American soldiers as possible with no plan of returning. Early in the morning of July 7th, 1944, the remaining 4,000 Japanese soldiers began their final attack. Salomon's field tent was positioned just 50 yards behind the front foxholes, and within minutes, his tent quickly filled with over 30 injured troops. He did his best to tend to the wounded, but the Japanese soon broke through the front lines.
Yo, the battlefield is a horror scene. Yo, I feel like that would be a really good movie. There's probably some movies like that, like, war movies, but to make a war movie turn into like a psychological horror. A24, get on that.
He looked out of his tent and spotted a Japanese soldier bayoneting a wounded American who was lying outside of the tent. Enraged, Salomon picked up the rifle of one of his patients and fired at the Japanese soldier, killing him.
Go crazy.
Suddenly, 2 more Japanese soldiers popped into Salomon's tent.
They try to flank him. Go crazy.
Taking them out as well. Like zombies, 4 more enemy soldiers then
just waves coming in waves.
Sides, and Salomon took 2 out with his rifle and another with his bayonet.
Get that double points.
He hit
Yep.
The 4th soldier in the stomach with the butt of his gun, and a wounded soldier he had been treating finished him off. Realizing the situation was only getting worse, Salomon instructed his medics to evacuate all of the wounded men.
He took matters into his own hands
to give them cover so they could retreat.
Wow.
Salomon grabbed a rifle and joined the front lines. When he saw 4 men manning a machine gun fall to enemy fire,
Chad, do you think y'all are fight or flight in situations like these? Fuck, bro. Like, hey, some people's natural instincts is to either freeze up, run, or actually do something about it.
He
gotta
rushed to
fight.
the gun
You gotta
and
fight.
manned it himself, firing bursts into the charging Japanese soldiers. He continued to fight from that position until
Might as
he
well
was
go out with a
eventually
bang.
overrun by enemy soldiers. Days later, when the Americans returned to the
Goodness.
battlefield, Salomon's body was found slumped over the machine gun
Damn.
with 98 dead Japanese soldiers piled in front of him.
He went crazy.
His body was ravaged with 76 bullet holes and many bayonet wounds, 24 of which he may have suffered before actually dying. The blood trail on the ground showed that Salomon had repositioned the machine gun multiple times while mortally wounded. Despite
I guess you gotta
saving
toggle
many
my
lives
special
that day,
ability.
Salomon was
Facts.
denied the Medal of Honor due to a rule in the Geneva Convention that no medical officer can bear arms against an enemy. Despite multiple recommendations from generals throughout the years, he remained a footnote in history until 2002, when Salomon was finally posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor from President George W. Bush, 58 years later.
What?
Coming up on tomorrow.
Hold on, no one's trying to watch on tomorrow's teaching. Now that was epic. We live on Twitch. Make sure you check out my main channel, TheKidLaw. I'll see you all in the next video because you already know it's always a big vibe on this channel. Boom.